Welcome back to Good Morning, LaLa, on this Motivation Monday. If you're motivated for a little intimacy and good sexuality, you want to listen to this episode. Kat Trimarco is in the house. She is a spiritual coach and a sexuality coach.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And
What
the
was
author
that?
of Self-Approved.
Yes, and the author of Self-Approved.
So tell us a little bit about what the hell you do.
Yeah, I'm like, where to start?
Yeah, where to
Different
start?
avenues, right? I'll start with the book. The book came from my own personal journey and my own personal hitting rock bottom with drug and alcohol abuse. After 10 years, the death of my partner. And so I share that journey, and that was my true spiritual awakening. That was when I started asking questions about, there's something else going on here. There has to be. And so that was a journey into spirituality, and the sexuality was, it was part of that journey, but it was separate. It was, why did nobody teach us about this? How come I'm supposed to enter a relationship and know how to communicate in the bedroom? How am I supposed to know my own body, my own orgasm? And yet it's so taboo to talk about. There seemed like such a disconnect between those two. So
I think it's a really interesting time, because we've talked about a lot that there's people are actually having sex less, but yet we long for intimacy. And where do we find that? People get triggered in relationship, and where do we find we need that expression in our life? And so how do you help people find their truth and basically, find what works for them in that arena?
Yeah, well, with sex, it's like, I view it as sex can be a place where a wedge is in between the relationship, or it can be a place where we build connection and we build intimacy. And I've experienced both personally. And how that relates into everything else is, it's like, I work mostly with women, and when a woman taps into her sexual desire, she tends to start tapping into desire everywhere in life, because it is the most vulnerable place to be honest with yourself. But what do I really want? What do I really desire? And that infiltrates.
How did your life change personally outside of the bedroom, though, when you embraced those desires?
More confidence and just feeling more embodied in my own body. I didn't realize before that I was disconnected. I was like a floating head walking around, not the sexual kind of head, but like a floating, like I wasn't embodied. And now I'm comfortable in my body. I feel good about myself. I feel good about how I walk through the world. Yeah.
I think there's a lot. Sorry, go ahead.
No. When you hit rock bottom, how did you start to dig your way out of that hole? Because I think a lot of people really struggle with that. They're just stuck there, and they don't know exactly what to do.
Yeah. I looked in the mirror and I had to get honest with myself about like what's going on inside you right now. And I sought help. I sought spiritual help. I sought help from mentors. I sought help from books and courses and anything I could get my hands on that was truth, which I know is a lot of what you teach and talk about. Get support, reach out to someone, and know that there's another side of it. If you're at the rock bottom, it's actually, in a sense, a good place to be, because there's nowhere to go but up, and you start actually.
I think it's interesting. I remember in my 20s I was married, and I remember we had intimacy, and I thought it was fine, whatever. But I didn't realize it wasn't until I really got in touch with the deeper depths of myself that I was able to have true intimacy.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of people don't realize there's like different levels of it. And for me, sex is whatever, but true intimacy is one of the most fulfilling things you could ever experience.
Yeah.
How do people discover that? What's the journey when they work with you? How do they discover that?
I approach sex holistically. So I approach it from us being physical beings, emotional beings, mental beings, and spiritual beings. And sex can be a very spiritual path. It can, I probably can't swear on here, but I say like getting effed open to God, right?
But also, don't you think there's if you think we're manifesting beings, right? I do think there's a place even within the orgasm that probably is a place that we haven't really even tapped into in our spiritual, like what potential is there,
Oh, we can talk about
we
could have a
right?
whole show about orgasm. That was something that I started to discover in myself, is that there, as a woman, we can experience full body orgasms, we can experience energetic orgasms, G-spot orgasms. Which is an incredibly spiritual experience.
We want to know more about that. I don't know. We have a whole show to talk about all these different types of orgasm and stuff, which is, I think, we don't have enough language around it. As they say, some of the different Indian cultures have like multiple names for different rains and different seasons, and
Yeah.
we only have one name for orgasm, and there's probably multiple different names and explanations and all kinds of things that you help us.
And we have
Come
to
to,
we
no
have to
pun
be
intended.
talking about it to normalize it, like
Right.
which is so much of my mission. Is like these are normal conversations. If we can't have these conversations, how do we have them with a partner if we can't?
Yeah, I think folks really struggle, particularly sex and spirituality, kind of see them as two separate things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I wonder, how would you describe or define spirituality?
Oh, spirituality, it is who we are. Like it is who we are. We're these energetic beings. And I actually want to simplify this for someone who's maybe not on a spiritual path, is if you just like close your eyes and feel into what's going on. Like there's so much going on inside of a whole world inside of us. Like this is a small fraction of what's happening. So sex to me is where spirit meets our physicality. And when we can meet that with somebody else, it's a divine, it can be a divine
other level.
experience.
But what would
Yeah.
you say to somebody who's afraid of experiencing that because they want to protect themselves? They may have been abused or had bad relationships. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, and that's a lot of the work is peeling away those emotional layers and peeling away the belief systems about what it means to be sexually embodied, about like for a man or a woman, like what does that mean? So that's a big piece of the work is the emotional work and clearing those old, like those things that have happened in the past where you've overrode your own boundaries, so that like it's part of the path to full expression.
Were there any teachers, popular or personal ones, that really inspired you and sort of led you
Oh my
down
God,
this
there's
path?
so many.
Yeah.
Yeah, spiritual teachers. Abraham Hicks is like my
Love
my
Abraham.
go. It's like every morning while I'm
Yes.
getting ready, listening to Abraham. I got to sit in the hot seat last summer, which is amazing.
It's amazing, right? I did
Oh
too.
my gosh.
I went
Wow.
blank. What happened when you went into the hot seat?
Yeah, I
What's
Yeah.
the hot
blank,
seat?
blank.
You basically they call on people based on if they're in alignment or not, right? So if you're in alignment, they just kind of feel into that, and they put you in the hot seat where you get to ask questions of them personally, while sort of among this seminar of people. I remember I sat there and suddenly my questions were gone. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I didn't have any questions. I was like, I'm good
I had to
now.
listen to the recording after. I'm like, oh, that's what happened.
That's funny.
But sexual teachers, David Data was a big one.
Yeah,
He talks
big
a
one.
lot. Like
Great.
I read his books even for men, and I learned a lot about myself as a woman through reading his books. So he was a big one. Jaya is another big one. She teaches the erotic blueprints. I'm one of her certified coaches, so I can teach the blueprints, which is a amazing piece of work to bring into this when working with couples. But yeah, those two, that's just a few.
Fantastic.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many.
I was at a conference with David Data. It was a very intimate group, and it was pretty intense. I was not even there at all. Like, I had a lot of polyamorous friends, and I was like so triggered, like this is weird and all stuff. But I just think that it's beautiful to have the conversation around, letting go of the old programming and going, what is possible? Like we talked about the law of abundance, that if we're feeling stifled in a relationship, maybe we do need to open our mind up and look at what is new for us, whatever's there. So I think it's really interesting. How can people find you and follow you?
Yeah, come find me on Instagram. That's the best place, which is at @KAT_TRIMARCO.
Amazing. And do you have an event coming up, right?
I do.
Why don't you tell them about that event?
So it's in Hollywood. It's the 3 keys to satisfying sex and intimacy. I'm sorry, it's a women's only. This one is women's.
Okay, I've become accustomed to that, actually.
I'll crash that party.
Yes.
And that's May 26th in Hollywood. It is available by live stream as well. I wanted everyone to be able to come if they don't live locally. But if you live local, come be in the
Awesome.
energy of it.
Awesome. Thank you so much
Fantastic.
for your work.
Thank
Stay
you.
tuned. We'll be right
Thank
back.
you.